change today is what is a constant, right? In the past, you would plan a campaign for 6 months, and then you go drop the big advertising in the Super Bowl, and then you go home and collect your Cannes Award in France. Maybe. Never got one. It's okay. But an advertising now, a piece of a TV ad today, is the ignition point of a conversation with the consumers. And that conversation and that touch point may come in the beginning of a journey, in the middle of a journey, or at the end. So the students lately, they probably got tired of asking questions, and my answers is usually, it depends. Right? That way, just tell us, what do you want? Is it a 3-month plan? It depends. What's your goal? Who are you talking to? What are you trying to get to? You know? And this is because you're trying to keep up with change. So, another thing that's happening a lot, right? I'm going to talk about, how many of you guys follow Fashion Week? Are you guys familiar with this picture? Cool, so I can talk about it later. Culture is moving also at the speed of light. What's hot now, in 3 days, it's no longer relevant, right? But staying relevant at that pace is extremely hard and difficult, right? And that pushed us to a huge inflection point, right? We're at the top of this chaos. We're in the midst of change all the time. Consumers wanting one thing, and then the next day they tell you they want something else. Loyalty is extremely difficult to build, right? I'm going to show a quick film. It's about 30, 45 seconds. I think it's quite funny. It was about 2-3 years ago. So Lucy K, he was not in the mud, but I think it's relevant what he said. So let's just take the message and not the person.
Because everything is amazing right now, and nobody's happy. Like, in my lifetime, the changes in the world have been incredible. When I was a kid, we had a rotary phone. We had a phone that you had to stand next to, and you had to dial it.
Yes.
You don't realize how primitive, you're making sparks in a phone, and you actually would hate people with zeros in their numbers, because it was more like, oh, this guy's got 2 zeros, screw that guy, why do I want to... And then if they called and you weren't home, the phone would just ring lonely by itself. And then if you wanted money, you had to go in the bank for when it was open for like 3 hours. You had to stand in line, write yourself a check like an idiot. And then when you ran out of money, you just go, well, I can't do any more things now.
Right.
I can't do any more things.
That's it, yeah.
That was it. And even if you had a credit card, the guy would go, ugh, and he'd bring out this whole shunk, and he'd write, oh, you have to call the president to see if you have any money. And
it's all true, kids. You had to call the president, yeah. It was ridiculous.
Yes.
Do you feel that we now, in the 21st century, we take technology for granted?
Well, yeah, because now we live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots that don't care, because this is what people are like now. They got their phone, and they're like, ugh. It won't. Give it a second. It's going to space. Can you give it a second to get back from space? Is the speed of light too slow?
It's true. Yeah.
I was on an airplane, and there was internet, high-speed internet on the airplane. That's the newest thing that I know exists. And I'm sitting on the plane, and they go, open up your laptop. You can go on the internet. And it's fast, and I'm watching YouTube clips. I'm in an airplane. And then it breaks down, and they apologize. The internet's not working. The guy next to me goes, this is bull. Like, how quickly the world owes him something he knew existed only 10 seconds ago.
Right.
So yeah, how quickly does the world owes you something that you didn't even know exist? So how many of you guys actually related to this message? Raise your hand. See how scary this is? Like, we're so disconnected from the youth, right? In my class, one of my favorite questions, she's actually sitting here. I'm not going to point her out. If she wants, she can raise her hand. Right, easy. And I was introducing myself, and I'm like, yeah, and then I worked for IBM. And then I spent 5 years at Nokia, and then Easy raised her hand, and she goes, what is Nokia? And that's true, though. It is scary. right? So what I tell them is, I am so lucky to have spent 6 weeks with 40 incredible minds that they are our consumers. They are the future. The future is now, right? Any company that would do a research to go around 10 countries to talk to 40 youth people, you would drop about $250,000 for that research. And I was just giving the gift to be in that classroom and be able to explain to her what Nokia was. So, thank you, Easy. So with all this craziness and madness and connection and always on and pushing stuff out, we actually, one of the books we read in class, it's called The Content Code by Mark Schaefer. And we were so lucky that we actually got Mark to do a web call with us via video and do a 45-minute Q&A with the students. And a big idea of the book is called content shock, right? How many of you guys went, like, hadn't eaten all day, and then you go to a restaurant and you stuff yourself, and then you get home, you sleep for 3 hours? That's food coma, but that's content shock, right? There's so much that's happening, and then you push, and brains are pushing and pushing, and say, look at me, that you stop paying attention. And messages go. So a couple of things are just key takeaways from this is, one of my favorite Twitter accounts is BBC News. The proposition is breaking news. They're not just reporting on stuff. So when they tweet something, I know something happened, right? So the best thing that I've been talking to the students about, if you don't have anything to say at that moment, just don't say anything. It's fine, right? So this whole area of social media, community management, you feel you have to have like 40 people in the back office just producing content on Facebook and push. And then people are just like, okay, I don't care. So you gotta talk when it matters, right? So you get out of this content shock. The second thing is, everyone's like, hey, what's your point of view on the digital landscape? There's no more digital. Everything starts and ends there. And I'll say it won't finish. It's a continuum, right? It's almost an infinite journey, right? The world is natively digital, right? My 3-year-old daughter, she knows how to unlock an iPad, she knows how to go to YouTube, and then she picks the cartoon she likes. I didn't teach her that. She didn't watch a tutorial video on YouTube, right? It's just like, you gotta keep your eye on it because, internet's also a scary space. So this notion of there's no more digital. Digital to me is a mindset. It's an approach, right? It's a way of working. So you gotta embrace that, right? Because if we don't, we're gonna stay behind because the generation, they're smarter, they're quicker, and they're faster. So with all this craziness and madness, how do you cut through? How do you become relevant, right? Pay attention, I'm not talking about reach. I'm not talking about 111 million views on Super Bowl, right? What was your favorite part of Super Bowl? What's that? Justin Timberlake. What else? What? Tied?
Patriots losing.
At least somebody was actually watching the game. My favorite was the selfie kid with Justin. Next day, he was in Good Morning America. He went to Ellen DeGeneres. He won an incredible VIP experience for the Patriots. I mean, this kid's life changed. Like, he said he even got invited to go to prom. Like, this kid hadn't gone to prom before, right? So that was my favorite part. That's about relevance. That kid was at the right place at the right time with the right person, right? So how do you cut through? You gotta be relevant. But you gotta start thinking differently. You can't solve the same problems the same way you used to solve. If you do what you used to do, you're gonna get what you got, right? So you gotta break the mold. There are new platforms. There's new ways to engage and connect. It's fast, it's furious, right? I'm gonna go deep on those 3 big themes and buckets, right? And of course, those are trends. Probably if I present this in 3 weeks from now, is it relevant? Actually, those 3 is kind of being pretty steady. Stories is ephemeral now. Like they don't last more than 24 to 48 hours. Gaming, for those who follow gaming, it's crazy how many kids actually play FIFA 18. And then you have Madden and you have Y2K. You know, there's about 1.1 billion people playing video game a day. That's crazy. Messaging's on fire. How many of you guys actually build a marketing plan and say, what's our WhatsApp strategy? Right? I call the circular strategy. If my mom shares my content back with me, we've done our job because it went full circle. And if my mom got that content, it means because it spread like wildfire. So nowadays, we talk WhatsApp strategy. Big brands now are doing Messenger on Facebook, right? And the supporting factor here is that the notion of stories being ephemeral. You can be silly and it's gone for 24 hours, right? In the last 3 months I've been at Clemson, I think I ate more donuts at Krispy Kreme at 10 o'clock at night than I ever ate in my life, right? My wife is in Europe, my daughter's in Europe, so I come home, I'm writing a book, and then I get my creative juice around 9 o'clock. And then one day I was driving home, and I drove by Krispy Kreme, and I'm like, no, don't do it. And they just kept going. I made a U-turn, came back, right? And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go live on Instagram. It was like the highest engaged stories they've ever done. Like, I think I had like 700 views. I was like, oh, really? So I just kept doing it because it was fun. So, but this notion of live is the new TV, it's so true. There are 600 million Instagram active users on a daily basis. 20% of all the Facebook videos are live. And then you have 3 times more retention than any other platform. So people spend 3 times more dwell time on your channel if you're pushing live content, right? But that doesn't mean you have to then create a production line and just go live all the time, right? A quick side story is my last, let's say, job or gig that I did at Nike. We went to White & Kennedy, for those who work in advertising, and we told them we're not going to do an ad this quarter. And it was a big issue because they love to do ads and they do amazing ads. We took our money and we flipped the model and we mapped our 100 most influential soccer players in the world, and we did a bi-weekly, every other day, a player would drop in his local community or at a retail store, go live on his channel, and then would partner with medias and influencers. We would bring music artists, up-and-coming hip-hop artists. We'd do a mural installation of graffiti in that community. We refurbished the pitch, right? And we took 100 players out to the streets. And the reason for that is because the reach and engagement that those guys give it to us, it's way more than any media buy we've done at that time, right? So Drake launched his album last year, right? And the speed of culture and this notion of ephemeral content, it proves itself when you look at Google data, right? 60% of all searches for his album came in the just first 48 hours. And then look at the spike later. It just died because something else picked it up. Something else picked it up, right? So this is just to show you through data how behavior has shifted and is no longer just about watching that one piece, but also building continuous relationship and conversations with your consumer. This is another one. It's my favorite, one of my favorites. Neymar, in the summer, was the most expensive transfer of football history. He's 24 years old at that time, 222 million euros just to go to another club, not to count his $25 million salary and so forth. But the key here is about being at the right place at the right time. Timing matters, right? We're going back and forth, like any creative company does. What is our point of view? What are we going to say about the transfer? How are we going to steal the conversation? And then somebody in the meeting say, well, what do consumers want at that time? Just buy his jersey. He's a new club, right? So our asset, it was a product photography in the locker room with his name on the back. That was the most engaged Instagram post of Nike history. We had 1.5 million engagement and no media investment. So be timely, being relevant is extremely important. And then it's just, for leadership team, we got about $50,000 in media value with no investment, right? Counting that, cost per impression would be about $7, right? So huge return, not just because of the 50,000, but the engagement of 1.5 million. And by the way, Neymar sold 12 times more jerseys that day than when David Beckham went to Real Madrid, right? It's just because today is a different world. It's hard to compare, but that's just a little bit of and we didn't put media behind. We didn't have any production behind. We just made sure product was ready, available on Nike.com, and we communicated very clear to consumers what retail destinations they could actually buy the jersey around the world, right? So also what we wanted, we want a funnel to create those crazy Apple iPhone lines. So we actually just picked 5 stores in the world that would have the jersey, right? So that's just about being timely relevant, right? We talked about Messenger a little bit. This is the primary platform of communication. This is a projection that in the next 18 months, there's going to be 1.1 billion users added to a messaging platform. Either WhatsApp, either Messenger, you name it. There's tons of them out there, right? Another behavioral thing that's super interesting with this, according to Lucy Kay, this crappy generation, right? They do an average of 200 direct messages a day, and they only do about 1 or 2 posts. So where are you going to engage with them, right? I'm not saying that this is in lieu of everything else you have to do, but you just got to a little bit shift the priorities and go back to what's your goal? It all depends. Another of my favorite, gaming, right? I'm really good friends with the guys at EA Sports. We've done a lot of stuff. And gaming is transcending culture. But last year when they launched FIFA 18, they wanted to create a culture moment within the sports of football, right? And it is right now, one of the biggest trending topics when it comes end of August or September when FIFA releases their game is the rating that the players get. The players themselves get extremely mad when they get a lower score that they think they deserve, right? And that actually impacts their sponsorship deals. It is crazy. I've heard from players that say, well, if my score is a little bit higher, I could get a little bit more money. And I'm like, well, just play better on the field and you'll be fine. So there are more virtual football than real game. Here's a crazy thought. For every minute played in the English Premier League, there's 26 hours of FIFA 18 being played. Right? Let's back this number into another bigger number. Right? There are about 38 games played in a season. A football match is about 90 minutes. Right? So start doing the math. That means that in 1 year, there are 115 million minutes of FIFA 18 being played. So I remember one time somebody asked, Nike doesn't sponsor the World Cup. The best brand in the world does, which is Adidas. And I was at Nike, and then we were having a brainstorming session, and they're like, should we sponsor the World Cup? It's about 350 million euros to buy the rights. And people are like, no. And I'm like, yes, we should. Not because of the World Cup, but because that comes with the property of FIFA 18, FIFA 19, and EA Sports, which is 1.1 billion people a year. And then once you have that property, you can do in-game downloads. There's things that are happening. You can actually order a physical product in the game And you don't have to go to Nike anymore. You don't have to go to Adidas anymore. Like EA Sports made $25 million last year in downloads of a boot that we did in collaboration with them. It's called Mercurial EA Sports. Kids pay to download the boot so they can wear it in the game. They didn't touch it, they didn't get it. They made $25 million in revenue just with that product, right? So think of the future and the possibilities that are ahead of us, right? So just a quick double click, on their strategy to launch what they call El Tornado. They want to launch more than a campaign. They want to create a culture shift, right? What's currently a linear progression of culture comes through football and then gets in the game. Their goal was to flip the model, right? And actually create a circular connection with culture. And starting to think how the game can influence culture. One example, Tottenham Spurs, a British team, an English Premier League team. They launched their jersey with an avatar of AJ Tracy releasing his new single wearing the Spurs jersey in the game, right? Think of like how everything is blurring now, it's melding and becoming this crazy thing. So here's the AV. I love using films. So.
There's no I in it, I bring it on my team. Who do you wanna holler, who do you wanna never know? Don't be a sheep when you can be the GOAT. Greatest of all time and you never know. Don't show up to my show if you've got no.
PS4 for the players.
So that's just, a glimpse. I mean, there's a lot more behind, A big soundbite of their campaign is that they grew 275% in membership, which people actually not only buying the game, but also creating an account for EA Sports from the previous year, right? That's crazy how gaming is actually influencing culture, right? For a hip hop artist to make a decision to release his single at the same time that EA Sports is releasing the game, it is just, it never thought possible, right? Like you wouldn't think of those things in the past.